Rancher lived alone for years, until 7 beautiful Apache women knocked on his door at dusk. Caleb Mercer had lived alone for so long that silence felt like an old friend sitting beside him. His ranch stood on the edge of a wide red desert on the frontier planet known as Ardent Reach, a place most settlers had abandoned years ago. The twin suns rose slowly every morning, turning the sky gold and copper, and Caleb began each day the same way, checking fences, feeding hybrid cattle, and repairing broken machines that kept his ranch alive. The ranch itself looked old but strong. Solar panels stretched like wings over the barn, and small drones hovered lazily above the fields, scanning for damage. Wind carried dust across the land, whispering through metal rails and dry grass. Far beyond the ranch, tall rock formations stood like silent guardians. Caleb preferred it this way, quiet, predictable. He rarely spoke to anyone. Traders passed through once every few months, and sometimes supply ships crossed the sky, but most people avoided Ardent Reach. The frontier had become dangerous after conflicts between corporations and native planetary factions. Many settlers left, but Caleb stayed. Some said he was stubborn. Others said he was hiding. The truth was somewhere in between. He had once been a lawman on another world, someone who rode into trouble instead of away from it. But that life ended after a mission that cost too much. Since then, he chose cattle over conflict and sunsets over gunfire. That evening felt like any other at first. The sky turned purple as the suns dipped behind the horizon. Caleb leaned against the wooden fence, watching his herd move slowly toward the barn. The animals were part organic, part engineered, bred to survive harsh climates. They moved calmly, their glowing eyes reflecting the fading light. A sudden alert chimed from his wrist console. Movement detected, 7 life forms approaching. Caleb frowned. Visitors were rare. He turned toward the western trail, squinting against the dust rising in the distance. At first, he thought it might be traders. Then he noticed the shapes, 7 riders moving in perfect formation, their silhouettes sharp against the glowing sky. As they drew closer, details became clear. They were women, dressed in clothing that blended traditional Apache designs with advanced frontier armor. Feathers and woven fabrics moved with the wind, layered over sleek protective plates. Their horses were powerful creatures enhanced with mechanical components. Soft lights pulsed along metal joints, and their hooves barely made sound as they stopped near the ranch gate. Caleb stood still, watching. The leader dismounted first. She moved with calm confidence, her long dark hair tied back, eyes steady and observant. The others followed, spreading slightly but keeping respectful distance. No one spoke for a moment. The desert wind filled the silence. Finally, the leader stepped forward. "Are you Caleb Mercer?" Her voice was calm, respectful, but strong. "That depends," Caleb said quietly. "Who's asking?" "We seek shelter," she replied. "Only for a time." Caleb studied them carefully. They carried weapons, but none were raised. Their posture showed discipline, not aggression. Still, strangers arriving at dusk rarely meant peace. "Storm coming?" he asked. "In a way," she said. "Yes." That answer did not ease his caution. One of the women behind her shifted slightly, scanning the horizon. Caleb noticed the subtle movement and followed her gaze. The sky looked clear, but his instincts told him something was wrong. He crossed his arms. "Not many come out here unless they got a reason." "We have one," the leader said, "and we bring no harm to your home." Her words felt honest, but Caleb had learned long ago that honesty and danger often walked together. He hesitated. Loneliness had hardened him, but it had not erased his sense of responsibility. 7 travelers standing in the open desert at dusk could not simply be turned away. After a long moment, he stepped aside and opened the gate. "You can come in," he said, "but you tell me what's chasing you." Relief passed quietly through the group, though they remained composed. They led their horses into the yard, moving with practiced coordination. Caleb noticed how they watched everything, the barn, the fields, the sky, always alert. Inside the ranch yard, the atmosphere shifted. Where silence once ruled, voices and footsteps filled the air. The leader introduced herself as Ayana. She thanked Caleb with a small nod rather than long words. The others began caring for their horses immediately, showing respect for the land and animals. Caleb watched them work. They were warriors, he realized, not just travelers. He offered water and directed them toward the barn where they could rest. The fire pit outside the house soon glowed as night settled over the desert. As they sat around the fire, Caleb felt something unfamiliar, company. For years, meals had been quiet and short. Now conversation flowed softly among the women, sometimes in English, sometimes in a language he did not understand. Their laughter was low but genuine, breaking the stillness of the ranch. Yana finally spoke more openly. "We guard something important," she said. "Many believe it is a weapon. It is not, but powerful people want it." Caleb nodded slowly. That explained enough. "Corporation?" he asked. She met his eyes. "Yes," he sighed. Trouble always found its way back. Just then his console chimed again. He checked the display. Long-range sensors showed faint energy signals far beyond the ridge. Ships, small, fast, scanning. He looked up at Ayana. "They found you," he said. Her expression remained calm, but her eyes hardened. "Yes." The fire crackled between them as silence returned. Caleb stared into the flames, feeling something shift inside him. For years he had avoided conflict, but now danger stood at his doorstep. The ranch was no longer just a place to hide. He rose slowly. "Well," he said, voice steady, "guess you picked the right place." The women looked at him, waiting. Caleb gave a small, tired smile. "Because if someone's coming to start trouble on my land," he said, "they're gonna find out this rancher still knows how to fight." Above them, the stars brightened as distant ships moved silently through the sky, closing in on the lonely ranch that was no longer alone. And for the first time in years, Caleb Mercer felt the past calling him back. The desert morning arrived slowly, painted in soft orange light as the twin suns rose above the horizon. Caleb Mercer stood outside the barn with a cup of black coffee in his hand, watching the land wake up. For years, mornings had been quiet and predictable, but now the ranch felt different. 7 horses rested near the fence, their mechanical parts shining softly. 7 warriors moved across the yard with calm purpose. The Apache women did not waste time. Some checked their gear, others walked the perimeter, and one adjusted a small hovering drone that scanned the sky for movement. Caleb noticed how they worked together without many words. They understood each other through small gestures and brief glances. Yana approached him while he leaned against a fence post. "You woke early," she said. "I always do," Caleb replied. "Habit." She looked across the ranch, studying the solar panels, the cattle, and the wind towers turning slowly in the distance. "You built all this alone?" "Yeah," he said simply. She nodded with quiet respect. For a moment, neither spoke. The peaceful morning almost made it easy to forget the threat waiting somewhere beyond the horizon. Almost. Caleb's wrist console vibrated again. He checked it quickly. Energy signatures still moving closer. He exhaled slowly. "They're scouting, testing distance." Yana's expression grew serious. "Then we must prepare." Preparation changed everything. The ranch transformed from a quiet homestead into a defensive outpost. Caleb opened storage sheds he had not touched in years, revealing equipment from his old life. Sensor mines, reinforced barriers, and automated turrets he once swore he would never use again. The women worked beside him without hesitation. One named Tala studied the terrain, marking strategic points where attackers might approach. Another, Nijoni, helped modify drones to patrol the sky. A healer named Kaya examined the ranch animals, calming them with gentle movements so they would not panic during conflict. As they worked, Caleb felt something strange, energy returning to him. He had lived alone for so long that he forgot what teamwork felt like. By midday, defenses stretched across the land. Small sensors hid beneath rocks. Shield emitters waited near the barn. Even the cattle pens became protective barriers. During a short break, they gathered around a table outside. Yana placed a small device in the center. It glowed faintly, its surface shifting like liquid light. "This is what they want," she said. Caleb leaned closer but did not touch it. "What is it?" he asked. "A living archive," she said quietly. "Ancient technology that can heal damaged ecosystems. It restores balance to planets destroyed by greed or war." Caleb raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like something powerful folks would fight over." "They believe it can control worlds," she replied. "They do not understand its true purpose." He nodded slowly. Power always attracted danger. Later that afternoon, Caleb taught them how the ranch systems worked. They listened carefully, asking practical questions. In return, they showed him combat techniques adapted for frontier environments, how to use terrain shadows, how to predict drone flight patterns, how to move silently across sand. Trust grew through shared work. That evening, they sat around the fire again. This time, the conversation felt easier. The women shared stories of long journeys between stars, of protecting sacred knowledge passed through generations. Caleb listened more than he spoke, but sometimes a small smile appeared on his face. The ranch no longer felt empty. As night deepened, a warning alarm cut through the air. Everyone stood instantly. Caleb checked the sensors. "Drones," he said. "3, no, 5 of them." Small shapes appeared in the sky, moving like silver insects against the stars. The women spread out, taking positions calmly. No panic, only focus. The drones hovered just outside the ranch boundary, scanning with blue beams of light. "They're watching," Tala said quietly. Caleb activated one of the defense towers. It hummed softly but did not fire. He waited, studying their movements. "Not attacking," he said. "Just collecting data." Iana stepped beside him. "They want to understand your defenses before sending soldiers," he nodded. The drones lingered for several minutes before retreating into the darkness. Silence returned, but tension remained heavy. "They'll come soon," Caleb said. "Yes," Iana agreed. After the alarm ended, no one returned to sleep easily. Some remained on watch while others rested in shifts. Caleb walked alone along the fence line, staring into the desert. Years ago, he had promised himself he would never return to fighting, yet here he was, preparing for battle again. Footsteps approached behind him. Iana. "You carry old pain," she said softly. He gave a small shrug. "Don't we all?" She studied him carefully. "You are more than a rancher." He said nothing. After a long pause, he replied, "I used to believe I could fix everything. Then I learned sometimes you can't." She nodded with understanding. "But you still try to protect others." Caleb looked back toward the ranch where the women stood together under the starlight. "Guess I do," he admitted. The next morning arrived with wind stronger than before. Dust clouds rolled across the plains like slow waves. By midday, new signals appeared on the sensors. Larger ships, closer. Caleb felt a familiar calm settle over him, the quiet focus that came before danger. He checked weapons, adjusted systems, and moved across the ranch with steady confidence. The women followed his lead naturally. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. As the sun dipped toward the horizon again, shadows stretched long across the land. Far away, dark shapes appeared against the sky, growing larger with each passing minute. The enemy had arrived. Caleb placed his hat firmly on his head and took a slow breath. The lonely rancher who once hid from the world now stood ready beside 7 warriors, waiting for the storm to reach their door. And this time, he would not run. The first enemy ship appeared like a dark shadow crossing the sky. Its engines glowed cold blue as it slowed above the desert, scanning the ranch below. Behind it came 2 more, smaller but faster, moving like hunting birds circling their prey. Caleb Mercer stood near the main gate, watching quietly. His hat cast a shadow over his eyes, but inside he felt the same steady calm he had known long ago. The kind of calm that came only when danger was close. The 7 Apache warriors took their positions without hesitation. Each knew exactly where to stand. Tala lay hidden behind a rocky ridge with a long-range rifle. Nijoni controlled the modified drones from the barn roof. Others moved through prepared paths between fences and equipment. The ranch no longer looked like a lonely home. It looked like a fortress. "Remember," Caleb said over the shared comm system, "we slow them down first. No rushing." Yana's voice answered calmly. "Understood." The enemy ship released small dropships that descended toward the land. Dust exploded upward as they landed beyond the outer ridge. Armored figures stepped out, scanning carefully, moving in tight formation. They expected resistance. They did not expect the land itself to fight back. As the first group advanced, a hidden sensor triggered. A burst of sand erupted beneath their feet, forcing them to scatter. Automated turrets rose silently from hidden compartments, firing controlled energy shots that pushed the attackers into defensive positions. The battle began. Caleb moved like he had never stopped being a lawman. He guided the team with calm instructions, watching the terrain, predicting movements. Years of ranch work had taught him every rock and slope, and he used that knowledge perfectly. "Left flank near the wind tower," he said quietly. Tala fired from her hidden position, forcing 2 enemies to retreat behind cover. Meanwhile, Nijoni's drones swooped low, releasing flashes of light that confused enemy sensors. The attackers advanced slowly, cautious now. They were skilled, but they underestimated the defenders. Caleb took cover behind a fence post and watched their leader, tall, armored, moving with confidence. Whoever commanded them believed victory was certain. He had seen that look before. The ground shook as a larger machine rolled forward from the dropship, a heavy walker, its legs crushing rocks beneath metal feet. "That's new," Caleb muttered. Yana's voice came through the comm. "We must disable it before it reaches the barn." Caleb studied the machine. Heavy armor, strong shields, but slow. "Target the joints," he said. "Wait for my mark." He moved closer, using shadows and low fences for cover. Energy blasts flashed around him, but he stayed calm, focused. The walker fired toward the ranch house, sending dust into the air. One of the outer walls cracked but held strong. "Now!" Caleb shouted. Multiple shots struck the walker's legs at once. Sparks flew. The machine staggered but did not fall. "Again," he said. This time, a drone carrying an explosive charge swooped beneath the walker. The blast hit one joint directly, and the heavy machine collapsed to one side with a loud crash. Cheers sounded briefly over the comms, but Caleb quickly spoke again. "Stay focused. More coming." Above them, another ship moved lower, its shadow covering half the ranch. Enemy reinforcements. The attackers pushed forward with renewed force. Energy bolts struck fences and equipment, sending pieces flying, the air filled with smoke and heat. During the chaos, one of the warriors, Kaya, was separated from the group while helping guide the animals into safer pens. A squad of enemy soldiers surrounded her position. "Ayana," Caleb said urgently. "They've got Kaya pinned near the east field." Without hesitation, Ayana moved toward her sister, but enemy fire forced her to stop. "We cannot reach her," she said, voice tight but controlled. Caleb looked toward the east field, open ground, dangerous. He felt the old pull again, the part of him that once ran toward danger without thinking. "I'll go," he said. "You cannot go alone," Yana replied. He gave a small smile no one could see. "Been alone a long time, I know how." Before anyone could argue, he moved. Caleb ran low across the field, using smoke for cover. He fired carefully, drawing enemy attention away from Kaya. The soldiers turned toward him, giving her a chance to escape toward safety. "Move," he shouted. Kaya ran, reaching cover just as Caleb rolled behind a broken fence post. Energy shots struck the ground around him. He stayed calm, breathing slowly, waiting for the right moment. Then he activated a hidden device buried beneath the sand. A shockwave burst outward, knocking the enemy squad off balance. Caleb fired again, forcing them to retreat toward their dropship. "East field clear," he said into the comm. Relief filled Ayana's voice. "You took great risk." "Just doing what needed doing," he replied. But the battle was not over. The large ship above began powering a heavy beam weapon. Energy gathered beneath its hull, glowing brighter with each second. "They're targeting the ranch," Nijoni warned. Caleb's mind raced. If that weapon fired, everything could be destroyed. "We need to blind their targeting systems," he said quickly. "All drones focus on the underside." The small flying machines launched upward, weaving through enemy fire. They released bursts of light and electronic interference. The beam flickered, losing stability. At the same time, Tala fired a precise shot at a sensor array on the ship's hull. Sparks exploded outward, and the energy beam failed before firing. The enemy forces hesitated. For the first time, uncertainty showed in their movements. Caleb stood slowly, watching them pull back toward their ships. Dust swirled as engines powered up again. "They're retreating," one of the warriors asked. "Not retreating," Caleb said quietly. "Repositioning." The dropships lifted off, leaving broken machines and scattered tracks across the land. The larger ship rose higher into the sky, waiting beyond range. Silence returned slowly. Smoke drifted across the ranch, and the defenders gathered together, checking for injuries and damage. The building stood strong, though scarred. The cattle remained safe. Yana approached Caleb. "You saved Kaya," she said softly. He shrugged. "We protect our own." She studied him with new understanding. The rancher who claimed to avoid trouble had just risked everything without hesitation, but Caleb's gaze stayed on the sky. "They learned a lot today," he said quietly. "Next time they won't test us. They'll come ready." The women exchanged looks, knowing he spoke the truth. The real battle had not yet arrived. As the sun set once more, turning the desert red like fire, Caleb adjusted his hat and prepared for what would come next. Because the storm was only beginning, the desert felt too quiet the next morning. No wind, no birds. Even the cattle stood still as if they sensed what was coming. Caleb Mercer stood on the ranch house porch looking toward the horizon. The large enemy ship hovered far in the distance, waiting. It had not left during the night. It was gathering strength. "They are calling more forces," Nijoni said, checking the signal scanner beside him. Caleb nodded slowly. "Yeah, this time they won't test us. They'll try to finish it." The 7 Apache warriors stood together near the barn. Dust moved softly around their boots. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were sharp. Yana walked toward Caleb. "If they send full assault, this place may not survive," she said honestly. Caleb looked at the ranch, the fences he built with his own hands, the barn repaired many times, the land he worked for years. This place had been his hiding place from the world. Now it had become something else. "It's not about buildings," he said quietly. "It's about what we stand for." Yana understood. The scanner suddenly flashed red, multiple ships approaching. This was it. Within minutes, the sky darkened with metal shapes. Larger warships descended, engines roaring like thunder. Dropships launched from their sides, filling the air. Caleb put his hat on firmly. "Positions," he said calmly over the comm. The ranch defenses powered up. Shield emitters hummed. Turrets rotated into place. The women moved with perfect coordination, each taking assigned ground. The first wave landed hard beyond the ridge, far more soldiers than before. Heavy armored vehicles rolled behind them. Energy fire lit the desert like lightning. The battle exploded across the land. Caleb moved along the central path, directing fire carefully. He was not reckless. Every move was planned. He used wind direction, sunlight glare, and even cattle movement to confuse enemy targeting. But the attackers were stronger this time. One of the ranch's outer towers fell under heavy fire. A section of fencing collapsed. A vehicle pushed through the east field. "They are breaking through," Tala warned. Caleb saw the danger clearly. If they reached the barn, they would find the sacred device. "We fall back to secondary line," he ordered. "Draw them toward the canyon." The canyon. It lay behind the ranch, narrow and deep, filled with old stone formations and hidden pathways Caleb knew well. Years ago, he explored it during long, lonely rides. The defenders retreated slowly, not in panic, but with strategy. They allowed the enemy to push forward, guiding them exactly where Caleb wanted. Yana moved beside him. "You planned this," she said. He gave a small nod. "Never fight stronger force in open ground." The attackers followed, believing victory was close. Once inside the canyon entrance, their large vehicles struggled to move. Tall rock walls blocked signals and narrowed paths. "Now," Caleb said softly. Hidden charges placed during the night activated, not explosive destruction, but controlled rock slides. Large stones fell behind the enemy forces, blocking their retreat. They were trapped inside the canyon. The Apache warriors moved along upper ridges, striking carefully and disabling vehicles one by one. Drones swooped through tight spaces, targeting weak armor joints. Confusion spread among the attackers. The largest enemy commander, standing inside a reinforced walker unit, pushed forward aggressively. The machine forced its way through narrow rock paths, ignoring damage. "He is heading deeper," Nijoni warned. Caleb realized the commander was trying to reach higher ground for signal connection. "If he reaches that ridge," Caleb said, "he can call orbital strike." They could not allow that. Caleb looked at Yana. "Cover me," he said. Without hesitation, she nodded. Caleb ran along a side path only he truly knew. The trail twisted upward between sharp rocks and hidden ledges. Energy blasts struck near him, but Ayana and the others provided precise cover fire. The commander's walker reached the ridge top. Energy began building in its communication array. Caleb climbed the final stretch and emerged behind the machine. The metal walker turned slowly, detecting him. For a brief second, everything felt still. Caleb did not rush. He aimed carefully at a small, exposed power joint near the rear support leg, something most would not notice. He fired. The shot struck perfectly. The walker staggered, systems failing. Sparks burst outward as the communication array shut down. The heavy machine collapsed to one side, disabled. Below, the remaining enemy forces hesitated. Their leader was down, their escape route blocked. Yana's voice came across the comm. "They are surrendering." Caleb lowered his weapon slowly. He stood on the ridge, breathing steady, watching as the enemy soldiers powered down their weapons one by one. The battle was over. Hours later, captured forces were secured and signals were sent to nearby frontier alliances, exposing the corporation's illegal actions. Without leadership and with evidence spreading fast, the remaining enemy ships retreated into deep space. Silence returned to the desert. The canyon stood quiet once more. Back at the ranch, damage was clear but not devastating. Fences broken, one tower destroyed. Scorch marks across the ground, but the barn still stood. The sacred device remained safe. As evening approached, the defenders gathered near the fire again. This time the air felt lighter. "You could have left," Yana said to Caleb. "You owed us nothing." He looked at the flames for a long moment. "Maybe I did," he replied quietly. "Not to you, to myself." She studied him with calm respect. "For years I hid from who I used to be," he continued. "But today I remembered." The ranch no longer felt like a hiding place. It felt alive. The women decided not to leave immediately. The land needed repair, and so did the people who defended it. Together they rebuilt fences, restored equipment, and repaired the damaged tower. Days passed. The ranch changed. Laughter sometimes echoed near the barn. Stories were shared under the stars. The once lonely land now held connection and purpose. One evening, as the twin suns sank into the horizon, Caleb stood at the fence again. Yana joined him. "Will you stay alone after we leave?" she asked gently. He looked across the wide desert. "For the first time in years," he said, "I don't feel alone." She smiled softly. The wind moved through the grass, carrying peace instead of danger. Far above, the sky was clear. And the ranch that once stood silent at the edge of the world now stood as a symbol of something stronger than fear. A place where courage returned. A place where 7 warriors knocked at dusk and found not just shelter, but family.